Hey there, welcome to yet another Flutter Mentor video. In this one, I'm just going to go ahead and show you very quickly how this widget works. So first, let's just answer the question, when should you use this? And the answer to that is you should use this whenever you need a table, kind of like this, but less ugly, and you don't need to make it scrollable, okay? If you need to make it scrollable, you use grid view, but if you don't need to make it scrollable, the table is the best way to go about it, because this way you don't have to create your own manual version of a table by making, a bunch of rows and columns. In this case, all you gotta do is, as you can see right here, I just put in a table and then a table row. In fact, let me just go ahead and copy this, which is the content, and let me redo this just so I am positive that you understand. So basically, this is just a table widget, okay? Let me just delete this to make sure you understand. This is just a table widget, and then it's the children property. That's all that you're seeing. And then inside that children property, we put in a table row widget. You can just imagine this is a column, and this is a widget that is a children of that column, okay? It's the same system in effect. And this table row right here equals to these three containers over here. As you can see, these are the strings within these containers right here. And then this other row over here is this one right here. Let me just put in the content back. So this is what's going on. I can just do this, and this table row is this one over here, and this one is this one over here. And as you can see, once you go inside the table rows, it's pretty much like a row. In fact, this is almost as if this was a column, and then these are just rows, except they're table rows. And maybe you're confused, like, what's the point of this then? And the point of it is exactly what I'm going to show you now. With this widget, you can accommodate to any size. It just makes it more practical. For example, let's say you wanted to align all the elements to the middle. Right now they're aligned to the top, but you want to make them to the middle. All you would have to do is come over here to the table, and there's a property called default vertical alignment. And then you work with enums. You have the table cell vertical alignment dot middle, bottom, fill, baseline, top. And the names pretty much explain themselves. In this case, we want the middle. And now I hit the save button, and boom, they are aligned to the middle. And of course, if I did the bottom, it would also work. Feel free to play around with this yourself. I'm just going to leave it at the middle. And then you can also play around with the elements horizontally, thanks to default column width. So you can control the widths of each element pretty much. Let me just show you how you can do that. For example, let's say you didn't want to occupy the whole thing. We could just do fraction column width, and for example, 0.25. You hit the save button, and now it looks like this. And this is a bit tricky because it's not as obvious as it could be. For example, you would think that 1 could be 100%, but it's not. As you can see, it's 100% of one element. So that's pretty much what you're working with. You're defining the fraction of the screen that you want each element to have. So in this case, we're saying each element should occupy 100%, which is why you're only seeing the first two elements of each row. So if you do 0.25, each of them will pretty much be taking up 25%. And then you would think that 0.33 actually makes it fill up the whole screen, right? But for some reason, that's not quite true. And the reason is probably, the fact that if you add it up, it's not actually 100%. So you can just play around with it, and as you can see, 34 pretty much gets it just right. And let me go ahead and show you in a different device right now. So here it is. Let me just select it. It's this one over here. I'm gonna run it over here too. You're gonna see that even though it's a differently sized device, it will still occupy the whole thing. And there you have it. Two different sized devices, but because we were smart about the fraction column width, we managed to make it the same on both devices. And I'm going to keep this one around for now. So what else have we got here? We got something called fixed column width right here. And in this case, you're literally setting a fixed column width for each of the elements. For example, if we do just 30 for each of them, then this is what it's going to look like, obviously, because they all only have 30 pixels. But if we do 130, for example, then they almost fill up the space. It's up to you. Like, obviously, when it comes to making apps, it's never a very good idea to pick like a fixed number, but you could literally just use a media query to just make it be always the same amount as the screen. For example, you could just figure out the size of the width of the screen and then divide that by 3, and put that value in here. As long as it's a double, it'll work. How you use it is up to you. Then you also have something called intrinsic column width, but from what I can tell in Flutter, every time something is called intrinsic, you can see right here, it is an expensive sizing algorithm, so you shouldn't use it too often. You can read what it says right here. This is pretty much the definition of what it does, but to be honest, if I hit save, you will see that it pretty much just makes each element be its true size. So these values right here, or just the size of the text, is what is pretty much defining the column width in this case. But finally, I'm going to show you the one that you probably want the most, which is the flex column width. And by default, as you can see, the double value is 1. So you can just do this and hit the save button, and it will always make the width fit the screen. So if that's your goal, then this is pretty much it. Like, this is just going to fill up the available space that the table widget can occupy. And I tried to play around with the values, but honestly, it always stays the same. So I personally didn't see any point to it. If you do know a point to it, just drop it in the comments below. But now I want to show you what I think is the coolest thing about this widget, which is the column widths. So this expects a map. We're working with map objects. And basically here you can literally specify different widths according to the column. So this one will be the same as this. So this one over here will be the same as this one. And this one will be the same as this one. And same here. But this one will be different than this one. That will also be different from this one. Let me show you. So basically what you do is you use an int here as the key, and this is going to be the first column over here. And in this case, let's just give it the intrinsic column width, so it's the real value of their widths. And then here, let's give it a flex column width, and this one is for the blue. And then over here, let's just give this one a fraction column width, and let's give it 0.2. Why not? And if we just hit the save button, you will see the difference automatically. And you might be wondering, why does this have so much width? And when you think about it, you see that this container right here, the red one, has 85 width, and these two, they have to be the same. So what happens is, whichever element has the biggest width, that is the width that is decided for all of the other elements. So as you can see, this is a pretty interesting widget, and it can be very helpful in certain circumstances. So I hope I was able to show you how to work with this. If you have any doubts, just leave them in the comments. But the best way to learn about this is really just play around with it yourself. Put this code in your project and just play around with it, see what you can do, see what gives you an error. That's how you will learn the best. I hope this was able to help somebody out there. If it helped you, please hit that like button. And if you're a beginner in Flutter, feel free to subscribe so you can keep on learning more and more about Flutter. Thank you so much for watching. This is Flutter Mentor, and out.